Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. And I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar. And they call me on the phone. They say, "Hey man, what's your show about?" And I say, "Well, it's about an hour. About guitars, guitar players, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic." So if you want to call me on the phone, that's E minor 9. That's a really pretty chord. You hear a lot in bossa novas. Or where was I? Oh yeah, if you want to call me on the phone, ask me a question about, guitar, how to play the guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, the care and feeding of your guitar. I want to talk about a related topic like the sitar, the cithara, the lute, the oud, the vihuela, the chitole, banjos, balalaikas, bouzouki, bajos, sextos, tiples, cavaquinhos, mandolins, mandolas, mandoras, mandocellos. I want to talk about, I don't know, man, anything, trombones, tromboninas, piccolos, pipe organs, accordions, ocarinas, clarinets, clavinets, clavichords, clavinovas, crumhorns, quartholts, cornetos. Did I say saxophones and sack butts? Anything musical is fine. Want to talk about something else, politics, world events, your own personality problems? That's fine. We're here for you, but keep it clean. This is a family show. It's kind of funny. One year, somebody was asked some dating advice from me and from Phil. I thought it was really funny. I have one bit of advice to give. Don't take advice from a guy like me. Well, maybe guitar advice, but anyway. So I have this gig up at Coe College. I teach guitar up at Coe College, and I have a little room with my name on the door, and I go up there twice a week and teach guitar lessons. And today there's a guy who's, I'm not going to violate any confidence. He is a football player, though, on the Coe team. And he frequently doesn't make it to his lesson. He often emails. I didn't get any messages from him, and because he missed so much before, I give him an hour lesson, and but he wasn't there. So I had a whole hour with my little briefcase, and I actually was looking at well, I don't have the music with me. I'm sorry. I was just thing is that usually I have computers and things around me, but there I always have this little room and my briefcase and my guitar and nothing else to do. So I could go lurk around the hall, but I don't know. Anyway, so it's kind of fun. Practiced for a while. I mean, without the interruptions and things of and the computer and the cat. Just me and a piece of music instead of on a music stand with a light. Just like the caveman did it, or anyway. So, well, they didn't have photocopies. Yeah, actually, I had something I printed up from something I had on my computer. But anyway, so you're talking about Colonel Parker.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've so his name wasn't. He was actually Dutch.
Yes, he was born in Holland, and his real name was Andreas van Kujic. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Which is probably why he changed his name to Colonel Tom Parker. It's easy for Americans to pronounce.
Yeah, so this is Elvis's manager who
yes,
who did a really good job of making sure Elvis got all the money he could.
No, did a good job of making sure Colonel Tom got all. Colonel Tom took like 50%.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, he did really well for himself.
Yes, he did.
He said that he started out with the Dancing Chicken Act.
Yeah, he had dancing chickens that played tic-tac-toe, chickens that played the piano.
Ah. And then he got Elvis.
Well, it wasn't directly from chickens to Elvis, but yes.
Oh. Well, they had a couple steps in between.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting, because I know one thing is that everything Elvis sang, he got some sort of publishing credit for.
Right, yeah. Colonel Tom always insisted that Elvis get half the writer's credit on anything he recorded.
And so that
he got half the royalties on it.
Yeah, so Elvis got half the royalties, but
half of that went to Colonel Tom.
He did pretty well for himself.
Yes, he did.
Some of those classic songs are still playing today. Whatever happened to him? Is he? I'm sure he died.
I'm sure he's long gone. I'll look him up while you carry on.
Okay. All right. was Love Me Tender, which is also Aura Lee. I guess they borrowed that one too. Guitar always goes out of tune after I've been under these. That's what Catfish Keith called the French fry lights, because in the diner they put the bright yellow light on top of the French fries to keep them hot, and that's kind of what. Here I am under the television lights. Yeah, so last night I played a shindig for the Iowa Cultural Corridor in the Coralville Performing Arts Center. I wasn't on the stage. As usual, I was in the lobby where they have the wine and cheese. This is kind of my, not that I complain, I work steady. But I booked a gig in the wine bar in the, right next to it, the Mendoza Wine, is a wine bar. If you drink fancy wine, you buy a couple bottles, take it home and stuff. Or they have cheese there too. But, yeah.
Well, it looks like things didn't end after Elvis died. The Presley estate and several other people and Colonel Tom all sued each other, and Colonel Tom got some sort of settlement out of it. And the most recent thing he did, he was working for the Hilton Hotels, and some people say it was to pay off gambling debts. He was a big-time gambler.
Oh, I see.
And anyway, he did his last public appearance in '94 and died in '97.
I see. But it didn't go so well for him after all.
Well, the Elvis marketing after Elvis died, turned out the Elvis estate owned like a little over 20% of it. Colonel Tom owned around 50% of it, and some other business interests owned the rest.
I see. And they, so he was sued, and then he gambled, and then it was.
Well, I think he gambled all along. You know, when Elvis was doing the Vegas years, I think Colonel Tom was doing a lot of gambling, and there were some rumors about that too, that there were some sweetheart deals with the casinos because Colonel Tom owed the casinos so much money.
Oh. And so he put Elvis out there to
yes.
play gigs maybe below his station so he could pay. Okay. Huh. That probably helped Las Vegas to put Elvis up there.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, he probably cheated Elvis blind too along the years, but that's my assumption. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Elvis says he didn't think he'd amounted to anything if it hadn't been for Colonel Tom. So.
I see. Yeah. Huh.
Which also, you know, as you know, there are a lot of people trying to make a living in music.
That's right.
Very few of them get anywhere near where Elvis did. So.
That's right. Well, I feel like I'm very low rent, but I mean, like I'm working steady.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
and you don't have a manager taking 50%.
No, I have a wife. She's rather expensive, but you know, she's in management. But yeah, well, it's just yeah, I guess it's tough all around. I would say though, now this is a tangent. This is my own personal thing, you know. But I worry about myself with my guitar acquisition syndrome, GAS, called GAS, you know. And I do have a tendency to want to get more and more guitars, you know. And I'm always like his passions, you know. And really, I just really feel like I'm lucky. I keep thinking about this all the time. I should probably like just be quiet about it. But if you always want another guitar, it's kind of it's a little embarrassing. But when you compare it to like gambling, because I've been hearing stories about
a guitar is not like gambling or heroin or something,
right?
Or Elvis on his pills.
Yeah, because I mean,
not only that, you buy a guitar, you still have it.
Right.
You buy OxyContin and it's gone.
That's right. I do coffee and some ibuprofen. You know, that's my my drug habit's relatively inexpensive. I don't even drink that much coffee, for that matter, or do that much ibuprofen. But it's the thing about the guitar is you still have it, and it's just like I've been hearing like stories about even local like Iowa gamblers who ever since they've legalized gambling, people have like totally gambled away their pensions. So the people who are like in their later 60s and there's no way they can retire because all they have is Social Security. Which is
on over in Peoria, there was a car dealer over there that had like 4 or 5 dealerships around Peoria and the surrounding towns. And the riverboat came in, riverboat gambling, and within like 3 or 4 years, he was bankrupt.
Right. Yeah. Well, another guy was telling me about somebody they were looking at some statistics, and this guy kept books, but he was some fellow was had a pretty good job, and it was like $600,000 or something. He was down. He was in his later 60s, and he would have retired with a decent pension, but he had nothing. But it's a good thing they have Social Security, because. But he was kept. But the thing is, you always try to throw that good money after bad, because if you could just cash in big, then you win. Then
the thing you need to understand about the casinos is they win.
They win, yeah. So, I don't go to the casino. If I were going to go to the casino, I'd go there as a guitar player. But I don't even want to do that because
Well, like I was saying last week, it looks like you have to be an '80s tribute act.
Yeah, you were telling me that, and I think I'd rather work at Hy-Vee. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with working at Hy-Vee. Certainly a lot better than being in an '80s tribute band. Straightening out the cans of soup on the graveyard shift. I think I have a certain amount of coordination. I think I could do that pretty well. I don't know.
Of course, I don't know. Next Halloween, you ought to get yourself a long blonde wig and check it out.
I've been meaning to do Johnny Two-Chord, but I don't think it would be for anybody who really likes 80s music.
And you said you already have the Flying V guitar.
I've got the Flying V. I was actually at the guitar shop. I was looking at this Jackson guitar, which is designed for heavy metal. But I've got an Epiphone Flying V. It's a Korean, licensed through Gibson, but it's Korean. It's actually not bad, though. Yeah. I should bring it on the show again. But yeah, I got the Flying V. I wanted it to be gold, though, instead of black. And then because I ordered a gold one, they sent me a black one, and I never returned it and exchanged it. But yeah, a blonde wig and long blonde wig, and then Johnny Two-Chord.
Some spandex pants.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I thought maybe ripped up jeans or something. Did they wear tight jeans in the 80s? I suppose they did. Tight pants?
I suppose they were tight pants. The raggedy jeans kind of came in later with the grunge bunch. The flannel shirts and raggedy jeans was the Seattle grunge groups.
Yeah. Well, those are baggy jeans, at least. They weren't the... I don't really want to do spandex pants, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, I got to work on it a little bit. Maybe.
Well, there's always face paint. You could do a Kiss act.
Yeah, stick my tongue out a lot.
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to have I was thinking about like a long blonde wig, maybe just like a long blonde ponytail.
Yeah.
Have it sticking out of a baseball cap that would be like down low, and then I would have the appropriate outfit, and then I would jump up and down when I played, but not play very much. Because I want to do this epic guitar battle between Johnny Two Chord and George Schnickelfritz. And George Schnickelfritz was the character I played on the last Tom's Guitar Show special with the overalls and the plaid. And he's it's supposed to be what a person from Iowa is supposed to look like.
Or, of course, maybe you could get a gray ponytail and be one of those leftover hippies and play Dylan.
That's right. Yeah. Gather around, people, wherever you go, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and you'll be drenched to the bone if your time is worth saving. For the times that are changing. Yeah.
Tie-dyed shirt and some bell-bottoms and sandals.
Yeah. Well, I actually like Dylan. I wouldn't want to make fun of him. Now Donovan, they call it mellow yellow. But I don't know. Maybe I should just be myself. But who am I really? This is my main gig guitar these days. I was going to bring something else, but I'm just too tired. I had to get up in the morning and go to teach on Tuesdays now. It used to be all I had to do on Tuesday was Tom's Guitar Show. It was like closest thing to a day off I get. But now I go up to Cedar Rapids and teach up there, and I come back and I'm kind of tired.
What do you do on weekends?
Well, on weekends I play this guitar at the Tuscan Moon.
That's in Kelowna.
That's in Kelowna. Beautiful downtown Kelowna, right by the bakery.
Friday and Saturday night?
Friday and Saturday night. So much to do and see, like the cheese house and the bakery. My, Kelowna. That's it. Sorry. So many things to do and see. Go to the cheese house or the bakery. My Kelowna. I haven't worked it up. I was going to do something about the, watch you don't hit the buggy. My Kelowna. I don't know. I'll be there Friday, Saturday night. It's supposed to start at 6, so I'll be there at 6:30.
But you'll play till 9:30 or so.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to play till 9, but I'll play till 9:30, or even up to 10 sometimes. If things are happening there, I play till 10. My advice is get reservations. Things are picking up again. And sorry, Phil was taking the call. Bob, how do you spell that?
Phil should know by now you spell it the same both directions.
That's right. That's right. Must be nice to have a name like that.
Yeah.
Symmetry.
If you spell it backwards, you're still right.
That's right. They call me Mott. But, all right. Hello, you're on Tom's Guitar Show.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Bob.
It's a really neat hat you got.
Well, that's my usual hat. Hey, look, you're on TV. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of these hats. They're cotton and they're machine washable. So.
Yeah.
I also have some wool hats that I put in the machine with Woolite. They came out pretty well. I'm so happy about that,
Uh-huh.
So I thought they'd be ruined, but after you wear them for like 2 years and then put them in a box, they're pretty well ruined anyway. So they came out pretty nice. But anyway.
I was really struck by you not wanting to assail Dylan. You say you like Dylan.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to make fun of Dylan. Even though you're really being kind of sarcastic about everything at that moment.
Well, not about Dylan. I mean, there's some things you just, don't make fun of.
You
Yeah.
just can't be sarcastic about Dylan, right?
No. I mean, but Donovan, sure.
Oh, Donovan. Yeah. I remember him.
They call it mellow yellow. I remember watching him on the TV, and I thought, oh, no, is this what it's come to? I was just a kid, too, you know.
Yeah. I think it was about, the Love is Blue kind of thing.
Yeah.
You said you liked that song, and Donovan.
I worked up Love is Blue for...
Pop. There was a lot of late 60s pop.
Yeah. Well, Love is Blue is a French pop song. L'amour est bleu. And then it was translated very badly into English. It was pretty corny and cheesy in French, but in English it was really bad because they got hung up on the colors. Red, red, my eyes are red, crying alone, crying for you alone in my bed and stuff like that. It was pretty bad. But Paul Moréa on his 101 violins or whatever did a pretty good job of it with the harpsichord doing the.
Very good.
Well, I got this little restaurant job, right? And so what I want to do is there's another guy who plays there on Wednesday nights sometimes on a keyboard, and it seems like I think one of the problems is that he doesn't know that many songs, and a lot of them are like old show tunes and stuff that people don't like anymore, and he plays the same ones over and over again, and so I mean it might be good when you hear them the first time, when you're going to having dinner, but if you're like a waiter. You get tired of it because So my thing is, I always try to introduce more and more songs, and so I mean, I have I've got that one. I've got some Gordon Lightfoot songs, Jim Croce songs, Bob Dylan songs. I do, Beatles, of course, and stuff, and plus like classical guitar music and stuff I make up. So my trick is I just keep trying to learn more songs because I have to live for something, and I thought I could do a casino gig with it, but now Bob tells me that they're having 80s tribute bands, so I guess that avenue is close to me.
Oh, no. We have an aging population.
That's right.
Right, and so you have nostalgia down, right?
Well, I can do the nostalgia thing because I'm a baby boomer, but I'm kind of like at the later end of it, so that I'll always be a little bit younger, than the main baby boomers. So,
Well, you're 1 year younger than myself.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
So how it is.
We're old farts,
Well, getting up there a little bit.
So you go to the restaurant, like, let's see, I'm trying to think. Perkins.
Uh-huh.
They have a, seniors menu. You get great discounts, right?
How old do you have to be to get the seniors discount at Perkins?
55.
Really? Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
They have a seniors menu.
55. Wow. And you get to eat early, too, don't you?
They're giving it to kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. These idiot kids, they have no idea,
Well, that's what Bob was saying, because Bob's a little bit over 55 now. See?
Yeah.
I'm actually not that old on this show. You see? This is a...
I'm 56,
you ever heard of something?
I know you're 55.
Yeah, but there's for a little while yet, but there's this, isn't there a title of something, A No Place for Old Men? This is not what Tom's Guitar Show is, so. We got Chris over here, he's just a young pup, Your day will come, young man, someday you will...
You'll get old if you live long enough.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
But then you can enjoy it. Right.
try anyway.
I was just watching MSNBC, and poor Hillary Clinton, they're saying she's tired.
Who is tired?
Yeah.
Who's
no,
tired?
she's tired, not retired.
Oh, who are you speaking of?
Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yeah, Hillary Clinton.
And she should just take some time off and then run for president in 4 years. And that's like,
yeah.
Wait a minute, she's 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
And so...
She'd be 69 then, huh?
Yeah.
60, 70.
Like 70. You want to run for president at 70?
I don't know. It seems like it was a pretty hard job. And, Obama is he's a pretty young guy, but remember see how his hair turned gray? And,
yeah, sure.
You remember what happened to Carter and those guys?
Yeah.
Reagan wasn't affected, but he didn't really know. He was just reading his teleprompter and just.
Yeah, well,
his hair came out of a bottle when he went in.
Yeah. Bob just said his hair came out of a bottle when he went in. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But.
So, were you happy with the election?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I was. The thing is that actually, it was good. It was good. I would say the only thing about the House of Representatives is that I was just reading an article about the numbers, and if it weren't for the gerrymandering, which is like intense gerrymandering, the Democrats would have taken the Congress because more people voted for Democrats for Congress. But the way that it was gerrymandered in a big way to favor Republicans, they held on to the House. Like as a Peter King in New York, he would have definitely been out if it hadn't been heavily gerrymandered.
I'm sure you kind of cognizant about another congressperson named King.
Yeah, that guy.
In Western Iowa.
Yeah, I don't know if we can claim that part of the state. That's more like it's closer to Nebraska, I think. But anyway.
It's kind of bizarre. He's kind of a wingnut, don't you think?
Yeah.
You said we could talk about politics.
That's right. Politics, world events, your own personality problems. Only just keep it clean. It's a family show.
Yeah. But King is a wingnut.
Yeah. He's a interesting guy. He pops up in the news, and I read quotes by him. It's very interesting. So maybe we should read some of his quotes with some musical background sometime as a performance piece. Some of his interesting.
Well, I'm interested
opinions.
because I used to drive trucks, and I was all over the state, 20, 30 years ago. And I know as listening to you that you've traveled.
Yeah.
And so you kind of know this mentality, and it's bizarre that someone like this King guy just doesn't get laughed out of the house,
Right. It's interesting to me, but I have been in different communities. I had been in, and I try to fit in. In the '90s, I did a lot of artist in residence type of stuff. For the first half of the '90s, mostly the 5 years in there, I did quite a bit of this stuff. So I would go and to some town, and then they put me up somewhere, and I teach school for a week. Usually elementary school, sometimes high school. And then I teach music and do a big production. Like on Thursday night, we do a big concert and stuff like that. And I try to leave in place some sort of program, like in Esterville, or maybe it was. Yeah, I think Esterville had a ukulele orchestra, and then I did a big thing in Orange City, which is the nearest metropolitan area. There's Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Orange City is a very Dutch place. Right. And you see these stickers on cars saying, "If you're not Dutch, you're not much," and so talk about racism.
Okay. I did 3 ragbris.
Uh-huh.
And so we always start in Western Iowa.
Yeah.
And it's different from Eastern Iowa, don't you think?
Yeah. I think so. It's a very different kind of place. I don't know. I mean, it's a different mentality, and it's more Nebraska-ish. I've been to Nebraska too. That being said, I
Okay. I'll finish up with a joke then.
All right.
Let's see. Custer, he was going to be wiped out at the Little Bighorn. Mm-hmm. His scouts came back and said, "You want the bad news? Custer said, "Yeah, wow, yeah, give me. You're going to be wiped out. This is your last stand. We're all going to die." What's the good news? We don't have to go back through Nebraska.
Ah, that's good. I'll remember that one.
All right.
A good news, bad news
Play
joke.
some Dylan for me.
All right, I will.
Thank you.
See you. I missed. You're not supposed to tell people you missed, but this is C. The thing is, this neck is really long. It's a great guitar. This is an electric classical guitar from Canada. French-Canadian, actually. It's like another joke if you want to be... see, he's a French-Canadian. Most of the time, he's really quite polite, but today, he's just French. Yeah, I know, it's not very good. Anyway, this is made in Quebec, this guitar. So it's a solid body electric nylon string guitar. It goes well for bossa novas, like... In fact, I was in a guitar shop. I was in that Musician's Pro shop one time, and the owner borrowed the newest version of this guitar that they make, a newer model of it. And there's a guy from Brazil who was trying it out. He was trying to decide between getting one of those or the Yamaha silent guitar.
Steve, please give him 20 minutes.
Actually, I heard that. But I heard that. Anyway, but the guy was from Brazil, so that was his, But they said they were these are twice as expensive down in Brazil as they are here, because I guess we have more or less free trade with Quebec. But anyway, so and then Godin, the guy whose company it is trying to, now he's marketing himself as a truly North American guitar, because he, a lot of the American builders went out of business and. Production is done overseas.
Yeah, as you pointed out, a lot of American names are on things that come from Korea or Vietnam or someplace.
China, mostly, yeah. Well, the thing is that like a lot of guitars, so you have a guitar is made in Chicago. They had like a factory in Chicago. They made them starting in the 19th century through the 20th century until somewhere like the late 1960s or so, and they went out of business. Maybe through some tomfoolery and jiggery pokery in business, because they had a solid company. But anyway, and so the name gets sold to some other company, and they start building them in Japan, and then Japan gets a little too expensive, workmen, so they send it over to Korea where it's cheaper, and the Koreans do a good job. They have like several generations. It takes a couple generations to get good instrument builders, but then they get together, but then the Koreans become too expensive, so they ship it to China. And so now they're making them in China, and they're starting all over again. And it looks like the same guitar from a distance, but it's like there are things wrong with it. But the Chinese start getting together, but then they get too expensive. They send it over to Indonesia. And you start thinking, and then if you look at a picture of the guitar, or look at the guitar from a distance, it looks like the same old guitar it always was.
And it still has an American name on it.
It still has an American name on it. You say, that's great, but some Washburns are pretty decent. I think it depends on a lot of things. It's not like... it depends on what time zone. Like the best guitars are built in this time zone or something like that. But that's not the point. It's like how much do they care, and
have they learned how to do it yet?
Yeah, because they making guitars is a little bit different from making a component or something for something else, auto parts or something. Well, I'm sure that's quite an art too.
Well, I don't know if you remember or not, but I remember when Japanese cars were cheap and tinny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were death traps. I remember the first ones I saw when I was a kid were like, and they didn't do very well in crashes and stuff.
And not that long ago, the Hyundais coming in were death traps.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they're pretty good, I guess, are they? Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes. But I mean, the guitars, it's a guitar building is a little bit more of an art. I mean, it's not factory guitars are. They're different levels of quality, and certain kinds of guitars are easier to make than other ones, like an electric guitar, solid body electric guitar. If you have a decent chunk of wood, and it's not necessarily that expensive, like alder wood or swamp ash, various kinds of ash and alder make pretty good bodies. And then next, Canadian maple, it's a rock maple next, and then as far as like the fingerboards, well, Indian rosewood, I guess, or maple. This is ebony from Africa here, huh? But if you get decent materials, if you try to cut the cost too much of materials, because it doesn't cost that much material-wise to build an electric guitar. The electronics are fairly simple. I mean, they have an Alnico magnet in copper wire around the pickups, and you can mechanize that. But when it gets to acoustic guitars, it's a little bit more complicated, to mass produce them. And the way you cut costs and things are by making them out of plywood. Beyond a certain point, it gets pretty nasty. And if you really cut costs on the quality of the wood for the neck, on an acoustic guitar with so much pressure on it, they go and stuff. So I see a lot of these guitars that kind of look kind of nice from a distance, but the wood is a veneer on top of some sort of plywood or
They
particle
look good
board.
when they're new, but
Yeah, but they actually start falling apart. All the plies in the plywood start to loosen up. So rather than a good guitar made out of solid wood will actually improve sound with age, a plywood guitar kind of like loosens up and sounds more like a cardboard box as you go on. So I see a lot of these guitars. You buy a used guitar, you buy a used, like you buy a 10-year-old, Washburn, with a good Chicago name, but it was made rather indifferently in Korea or China or someplace, and it's kind of falling apart. The neck's bent because it's too cheap of a piece of wood. It couldn't hold the tension. It's like compressing, and you got junk. And we've shot such guitars with pheasant guns on this show. I backed over one with my big blue van years ago. It crunched real good. That's just what happened. It's no good anymore. You're not going to ever make music with it again. But on the other hand, if you buy one of the best guitars I ever played for a steel string was like a 1938 Martin HD28. It was a Martin had HE's herringbone inlay because the herringbone inlay makes it a little bit. I guess it's a little higher quality guitar when they put the herringbone on it or something. But as far as a steel string guitar, folk guitar, that was one of the best I've ever played in my life, and it was 1938. So, neck is still straight, and so that's the thing. You can, but the guy who builds the company that builds these guitars and a lot of other kinds too. They build this is their electric nylon string. They have a whole bunch of, electric guitars, and they have jazz guitars with hollow bodies, and then they have several lines of acoustic guitars, including one that's kind of interesting to me. It's sustainable because we were talking on the show maybe last year about Gibson guitars being raided by the feds for their exotic woods.
Yeah, for illegally importing wood.
Yeah, which and I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, so they built a sustainable guitar made out of woods that were not in any danger. Yeah. It's a spruce and maple. I don't know what they use for a fingerboard, but stuff that they have lying around in plenty in Canada. Yeah, and then it's that's seagull guitars. It has a picture of a seagull on the head, and it's anyway, nice guitars made in Canada, made in Quebec. But they went bankrupt a couple times in the 80s, I think, maybe even the 70s, and they got bailed out by the Canadian government. And I think they're doing okay. They've been at it for a long time, but they had some rough patches, but they got bailed out, and from what I heard way back when. And I talked to the guy by 1984, Godin. This is Robert Godin. And then I had a little guitar shop for a while, and I sold their guitars. The funny thing is, I called the company, and the receptionist either couldn't or wouldn't speak English. And I was thinking, that's my parents are French teachers. And I can muddle along in French, Moi, j'ai parlé français toute ma vie. But I could, I grew up, speaking some French, and so I could talk to him. But how many other guitar dealers in Iowa would be able to get through the receptionist? So anyway, and once you talk to the guy, the main guy is speaks English perfectly well with a Quebec accent. But anyway.
Speaking of lousy tin imports, in the '60s, Renault and Citroën.
Yeah.
We're shipping in some cars, the Renault Dauphin and
the Dauphin, yeah,
and Le Car was another one they had.
In the 70s.
Citroën 2CV.
Yeah, 2 chevaux, yeah.
Yeah, two taxable horsepower is what the 2CV stood for.
Yeah. But the French horsepower though, I think a French horsepower is 13 horsepower or something like that. So it was
whatever they tax horsepower. Because I know I don't think Iowa does it, but Illinois, the license plates used to be based on taxable horsepower, which didn't have a lot of relationship to whatever the advertised horsepower or anything else was. Some different formula for coming up with it. But anyway, the 2CV was 2 taxable horsepower. I watched a show on TV the other day about 50 years of James Bond cars. And they asked Roger Moore what his favorite was, and it was one of those. He said the reason was it was so cheap and crummy, it didn't matter what he did to it. He could get away with it.
Right. Well, the 2 chevaux, the 2 horsepower, the 2 chevaux, they don't make them anymore. But the Flying Dutchman, the the British call it a flying dustbin. You see, but because anyway, but garbage can, you know. But the corrugated metal on it. But I used to live in France when I was a kid. You know, I saw those things. I always wanted one of those. But the thing was, there are very few of them in the U.S. because they wouldn't allow them because of the safety inspection. They wouldn't pass American standards for safety.
Oh, back in the '60s, though, there weren't many.
Yeah.
You know, they brought in a lot of cars in the '60s. When compact cars hit and the Americans weren't ready for it, there were a lot of name brands that we haven't heard of since.
Yeah.
That came in and were really pretty awful cars. A lot of them.
Well, my mother had a Dauphine.
Did she?
But she was a French teacher, and it suited her. And she'd go off to teach French class at Cornell College in her Dauphine. You know, and she lived in France. She was very fluent in French. But I didn't see too many deux chevaux in the U.S. I've only seen a few. Yeah. I've seen quite a few in France, of course, when I was a kid. And I always wanted one. I had a friend who was American, and he spent some time over there working over there, and he got one. That was his, because they're sought after now, you know. But when I was a kid, they had a deux chevaux with we call it like a panel truck, and with a corrugated metal back on it, and it was the baker's thing, and they didn't wrap up their bread or anything like that. It was just like they figured the crust would protect it. They actually just leave it on your doorstep, with the crust, because they. But he had, so the guy would come every day from the bakery down the road with this deux chevaux, thing and a little truck, and he'd open the back and he'd have the long baguettes on racks in the back and leave them on the doorstep and everything like that. That was a long time ago, of course, but when I was a kid, the French were a lot less technologically advanced than we are, and then, but now because of business and greed, I think they're ahead of us. Yeah. So, I mean.
Of course, not many 2CVs over here is like those smarts that Mercedes sells. They still haven't caught on here, but in 2000 we were over in Europe and they're just all over there.
Well, they just started having them here. I mean, they started allowing them to be imported a couple of years ago, I think, recently. Somebody was telling me he could hardly wait till they could have them here because he'd buy one. But I've never been in one. But do they even go highway speeds, or are they just in town?
Yeah, I've seen them out on the interstate.
Really? Because I think originally they couldn't go highway speeds, but a guy I know just bought a little. It's a small. I have a Honda Fit, and his car is significantly smaller, and mine looks kind of big next to it. He's a very the kind of guy I wouldn't expect because he used to collect Corvairs and motorcycles, but now he's got this little tiny car that you can get 4 people in if they're friendly. But my car has to be big enough to fit a string bass, and the Honda Fit is the limit.
About as little as you can go and still get a stand-up bass in it.
Yes, a bull fiddle. Yeah. That's my new car. Now it's 4 years old. Pretty old for me. I mean, pretty new for me, but I had a Neon for 10 years. Yeah. I had a Fairmont for 16 years.
Well, this Vibe I have now, I've had it... 6 years now. This month I'll have had it 6 years, but I traded in an Oldsmobile that I had for 12 years on that. So.
That's how it's done. Were you working on the show yet when you treated it? I'm trying to remember if you were.
Yeah, I was here.
I think I remember you had
that blue Oldsmobile.
Yeah, I remember your Oldsmobile.
Cutlass.
Yeah. That's how it goes. Love this chord. These are the same chord, but different voicing of the same chord. So is this one. See, the thing is, for a lot of guitar players, a chord is just this. Oh, here's C chord. That's it. See, well, that's one, because the C chord is a C triad. One of your fingers get the 1, the 3, and the 5 of a scale. So C, D, E, F, G, C, E, G. Because I don't have a D or an F. C, D, E, F, G, C, E, G. C, E, G, C, E, G. Yeah. I can play it all over the place. It's all C chord. So One thing, there's like a whole bunch of different ways to make a chord. There's minors, there's majors. You add nines, or you suspend the third. If you take a chord like a C chord, and you raise a third, which is E in this case, see, you get this nice suspended chord. Because this is major. No, if you want to make a minor, you just lower the third to a minor third. That's a C minor. There's a C major. But if you don't want it to be major or minor, you can make a suspended. So I've suspended it. Okay? Or that's suspended 4, because I C, D, E, F. Yeah. I'm counting on my fingers for illustration. I actually know this already. I knew this.
You already know how many fingers you have.
Yeah, that's right. And I know what a fourth is. 4 notes above C is F. I just happen to know that. And I always know the fifth because I'm also a bass player. And how many bass players does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1 5 1 5 1 5. She's good-hearted woman, in love with a good time. 1 5 1 5 1. Anyway, sorry. But a 4 is okay. So if I do a C suspended 4, sounds like that, right? Or C suspended 2. What's 2? C D. Ah, okay. Yeah. So here's the thing. It's a psychological trick they discovered. If you had people want to go in the concert hall, and what they find out that they really want to do is hear like an F sharp. Like they had no idea when they got up that morning that they were really going to really want to hear an F sharp. This is how you do it. You go like this. Don't you want? Don't you want a happy ending? Yeah? Huh? So that's the thing about suspended chords. So, she's out of my life. You've heard it all the time. Or like a... Well, I lay my head on the railroad tracks, waiting on the double E. But the train don't run round here no more. Poor, poor, pitiful me. Anyway, or she's a good girl. Tom Petty song. So that's one thing. So what I like to do is add a 9, and the 8 notes above the root is the octave. So like 8 notes above C is another C. They sound the same. So you have a C chord with 2 C's. But what if you go C add 9? Well, I'm going to add the 9. That's 9 notes. So I got this note. At 9. I just put a B into an A minor chord because everybody knows B comes after A. Anyway, so not only can you have there are all kinds of ways to play. There are all kinds of chords, right? You got you can have a C this, a C that, a C diminished 7, a C half diminished, which is minor 7 flat 5. Sounds like this. Nice chord, but you can play the same chord in a whole bunch of different ways, so which makes it more interesting. So you have this one, like I could do it like this, okay? Or same chord. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so I guess what I'm babbling on incoherently is that not only do you have a lot of different chords to choose from. Minors and majors and stuff, but every single chord you can calculate and put together, can be played somewhere else in some other voicing. And which means that if you want to know it all on the guitar, good luck. I was once told as a child that my intelligence was above average, which is kind of hard to believe, but we were talking about Western Iowa, so maybe it's not. So I work at this like pretty much every day, and I know a lot of chords. I know thousands and thousands of chords, but there's a lot more out there. And I could always learn more somehow. So that's why the guitar is interesting. It's like this little puzzle, You got all this grid here. You got this all these notes, you know, and the same note appears in different places. Okay, that's the first note of the Tom's Guitar Show theme. I guess what I'm saying is you can. What did we learn there today? That
Saying, come back next week.
yeah, come on, you all come back now here. I guess what I'm saying is I spent an hour today in a room by myself with no computer and a sheet of music in front of me and a guitar, and I didn't run out of things to do. That's because I don't text.